that we're going to be doing today. So that's the very first lab. So we're going to build, the lab using hop, using switch, and a crossover cable. Later on, we'll also configure a wireless router. All right. So let's start the packet tracer application. I already have it installed. If you not have it installed, you have to check on Cisco website and just download Cisco Packet Tracer. It's a simulation software that is used to configure, network, in virtual environment. But what I want to let you know is the commands that we use to configure those devices in virtual environment, the same command are used to configure them in physical environment. That's what make the application so, kind of interesting. So Cisco Packet Tracer has started. So now let me take you through the interface. So here you have the file type. From here you can open new project, you can save your project, you can do print stuff like that. So you can go through them. Now I want to show you one important one. If you click on option, you see preference. So for preference here, you can check something, right? You can say, and I want a port label to show, meaning the label, the port that a particular cable is connected to. If you want the label to show, then you check this. If you don't want the labels to show, then you just uncheck it, right? So you can go through here and then you can apply, password there. Before you start that particular application, you should put password first. If you want, you can set all of these on the preference. So let's go back here now. So let's try to build our network. So down here, if you hover over this, it's going to tell you networking devices or network devices. Now, if you click on this device, the networking devices will be listed below. So here is a router, here's a switch, here is a hub, here's a wireless devices, here's a firewall, and here's a cloud. Now, we'll click on end devices also. We're going to find, you see, these are the end devices. Printer, server, laptop, desktop, voice over IP, television, tablets, and other devices are in the end devices. Now, if we click here, these are boards, these are circuit boards that we can use also. Now, if we click the next option, these are the cables. So these are different cables. We use them to do different tasks. Like if I want to connect two devices in packet tracer, I know the cable I'm supposed to use. I use the automatic. So this is the automatic. Now this cable is a console cable that is used to configure a router or a switch to from a particular computer. So if I have a desktop computer and I want to connect the switch there, the desktop should get serious port, the switch having a how you call it, a console port. So from there, I can use this console cable to be able to configure my switch or my router. Now the next cable is a cross, is a copper straight through cable. Now this cable is used to connect devices of different kind. If I want to connect laptop to server or switch, then I use the straight through cable. If I want to connect router to router or switch to switch, then I use the crossover cable. Don't forget about this cable. We'll get to them when we, using the prepaid line. Right. So if you come here, these are different options also. So here I another devices you can use. So here you can find a wireless PC. You can find a router. Now if you hit here, these are multi-user. It's a kind of multi-user device. But let's go back here. So we come here. We're not using router now, but for network devices, let's go here and then let's go for one switch. So 2960 switch we're carrying. And then we're also carrying one hop. So this hop we're also carrying. So we need to carry some end devices. So let's carry, let's say three desktop. Now we want to carry computer or whatever stuff that you choose from here simultaneously. You hold control and click on a particular device. So I hold control and click on the desktop. If I click now, I'll just have the desktop. That's the easy way. Even you can do it to the cable also. So now let me do the connection. We're building the lab together, right? So here we come here now. Let's take our cable. So we're using the copper fast Ethernet port to the hub, fast Ethernet port also. So to the computer, fast Ethernet port, fast Ethernet port is the port that allow your computer to connect through to a wired network. You there? Allow your computer to connect to a wired network. It has a RJ45 port to the switch or the hops. You there? Now we finish building the network. In other sections, we talk about IP addresses. So IP addresses are unique addresses. IP addresses are unique addresses that identify all of the node on the network, right? So nodes are those devices that will connect. Yeah. So now we finish building the network. If I want for communication to exist between PC0, PC1, and PC2, they should be on the same network. It can be class A, we can do class AIP, we can do class B, we can do class C, right? But they should be on the same network, right? So let's say we're starting with the class C IP. So let's say we're just giving those IP addresses. So you can double click here. So let's say John. Let's say this PC for John. So let's say John IP address is 192.168.10.2. So John IP address is this. I'm just copying to make the process faster. So let's see here, Mark. So Mark IP address. No two computer can use the same IP address. So since this is 2, it's going to be .3. Why are we repeating the first three hotkeys? Because it's a class C IP address. Sometimes I will show that the first three hotkeys is for network and the last hotkey is for host. So the first three hotkeys have to be constant for class C. That's how you have to know, right? So let me just bring some distance between them. Okay, so here, let's say this is Grace. So this IP address will be .4. Now, it's one IP address that everybody have to get in common, and that IP address is the default gateway. That is the network address. If all the computer on a particular network need to communicate, they need to have a default gateway address. So it depends the kind of or the class of IP you're using. Same we are using class C IP address, the first three OTEC going to repeat, then the last OTEC we can set it to a particular number. It should be the same number for all of the computers. So let's say we're using one, right? So default gateway. So our default gateway address is going to be going to be 1, right? So 10.1 meaning this is the same network like this. Are we there? So now let's go ahead. So this is a local area network. We're just using the switch to do that, the hub to do that. So this is also similar network, but I want to show you the difference between the hub and the switch. Why you think we're not using hub these days? It's because of something. So let's just, let's say I want to use a class B IP address, so 172.60.20.10. And then let's say this is Joe. So Joe IP address is this. We just consider it to be different network, but it's okay. I'm just copying it. So that's it. This is then let's see. This is Joshua. All right. So let's try to bring something to try to distinguish the network. So I guess you can guess what going to be what is going to be the default subnet mask for this particular address. So 20.3 we should have here. So 20.4 have. Let's go here for the pattern to just show some distinction between our network. So let's say this is the real network. where we're using the hop to make the red network. So this is our red network. And then let's see, we go for our blue network. So this is our blue network. In our blue network, we're using switch. In our red network, we're using hop. Get it? So let's go back here. Let's see. We need to assign. So the IP address that is here, we have to assign it to the computer. Also, the gateway, also we have to assign. Now, when you click on the computer in Packet Tracer, the computer will load, right? Now, see here. It looks like a physical desktop, right? See the image? We can turn this computer off from here. We can put it by on. Whenever we want to change the port, so let's say we want to connect this desktop to a wireless, router. Then we have to put it off, remove this port and drag it here, and then put the wireless port there, or the wireless card. Then we're able to connect this computer to our Wi-Fi. Now we want to assign this IP address to this computer. So we have to go to desktop, we have to go to IP configuration. So we also talk about the the kind of IP, right? So IP could be static or dynamic. And when we talk about dynamic IP is where there's a DHCP configured in the network that is going to list IP addresses to all of the client. But right now we don't have DHCP, right? So we are assigning IP address statically by ourselves. So we go to static and then we type our IP address. So this one is the first one. So this is 192.168.10.2, right? So class C. Now look at the subnet map. 255.255.255.0 is a subnet map for class C. So the 255.255 is identifying that this part is for network and this part is for host. So class C IP address can take up to 254 computers. You get that? Class C can take up to 254 computers. Why? It's only got one host part. If we raise 2 to the power of 8 minus 2, we're going to get 256 minus 2, we're going to get 254. So default gateway now, we have to hide. So 1, this address is the default gateway for everyone inside this network, which is 192.168.10.1. This have to be constant for all of the computers that are connected to the hub. So after just close it, come back to the next computer. From here, static, this and change this to 3, and then I just put here. So that's it. So this one also, we're gonna get 4. So come back here. So this one gonna be 4. Subnet max default gateway gonna be 1. That's it. The 3 computers now have IP addresses. They have default gateway, so they're connected to one network. If we share 5 from here to here, that 5 gonna get delivered. But don't rush. Let's see how Hop is very crazy. Hop does not have brain. It don't know who is who. It can't remember anything. It's very dumb. You're going to see the implementation right now. Let me just configure this one. So just let me do this real quick. So here, this one you should be familiar with now. So our address is 172.16.20.2. So this is the address for the first computer. So here is the subnet max, and the default gateway gonna be 16.20.1. It's fine. Anyhow, you want to range it, to make sure it's matching. So here, kind of same pattern. So this now is 3, and this is 1. So having much devices, that is okay. And this is 4, and this is 1. Yes. We have the red network and we have the blue network. So now let's try to see why people are not using hop. People are now using switch. Now let's see. So in packet tracer, these are messages, right? So we can take message from here and then we can click on this computer. So when we click here, meaning this computer is sending to the next computer that we are clicking on, right? So if I click on this computer, message is coming from here. So let's say message, John is sending message to Grace. So we click here, message was sent, right? But when I come back down, so what you see is stimulation. So let's click on the stimulation and try to see the behavior, right? So if you check here, the device, so here is John. So John is here. Now let's forward. Carefully watch. Hop is dumb. It does not know who is connected to what port. Right now, the hub does not know where is Mark or where is Grace. So whenever the package comes to the hub will broadcast the package. That's one of the things we can use it for. Imagine when there are 20 people on one network and one person is sending data, then everybody will get busy doing nothing. You see that? So that's why we're not using hub because it broadcasted the network signal. It also it also share the number of bandwidth that is being shared. So if the hub is operating on 100 Mbps speed, and then there are three computers there, you're going to divide 100 by 3. So definitely it causes conjunction in the network. It causes collusion. So people are not using hub because of that. Now let's see. If we come here, click on the stimulator and click forward, just carefully watch. So forward here, John is forwarding the message to the hub because that's the central device. Now let's forward again. Now see what happens. The hub forward the message to Mark and also Grace. Even if there were 10 people connected, this message is going to be broadcast to everybody. You see that? That's why we're not using it. Now, if we click forward again, this is a three-way handshake, right? So if the message comes from John and then reaches Grace, Grace had to send an acknowledgement message back to John that I received the message. So let's forward now and see what happens. So we'll forward here, also see what happened. The same message is being broadcast. Now you see the check marks here, meaning fine. Communication exists between John and Grace. So that's what's happening right there. You see that? But let's try with the hop now. That the switch. Let's see if the switch is dumb also like that. So let's go back here, go back to real time mode, and then click here. Let's delete the whole stimulation. So let's try the same message again. So we'll come here. So now Joe is sending message to Joshua. Are we there? And then the same status was successful. But let's see also the switch behavior. Let's see if switch forward the package to everybody, right? So we come here, stimulation again. We click on forward. Message have been forwarded to the switch. The switch is very smart. Now, what the switch does is it has a memory, right? It got something they call MAC address table. Inside the table is where it sees all of the devices that are connected to it, the MAC addresses. Now, what is MAC address? MAC address is the physical address of the devices that operate on the network. The physical address of those devices that operate on the network. Now, if we hover over this computer, we're going to find the computer MAC address. Now, you see here, the MAC address is right here on the right side there, where you see MAC address. That is the physical address of this particular computer network card. So the switch work with the MAC address. If any copying, the MAC address of Hannah computer or Grace computer or Joe computer, right? So whenever Joe is sending message to Joshua, the switch will not broadcast. It will check in its brain or in its MAC table and then match whatever MAC address that's inside the message. Now watch. When you're sending message to somebody, the person inside we call it inside address. The person address gotta be there, right? Uh-huh. So while the message is going from Joe to Joshua also, inside that message, Joshua address is there, Joe address is also there. That's why when it comes to the switch knows exactly where this message is coming from and where the message is going. Get that? So what we're doing here, now let's forward the package. So if we click forward here, see what happened there. Did the message go forwarded to Hannah? No. It only got forwarded to Joshua because the message was sent only to Joshua. That is the beauty of the switch. It's very, very much sound, right? So if we click forward by, it go back to the switch and the switch send it back only to Joe. This is marvelous. You see that? That's how the communication exists between the. That's the difference between the hub and the switch. Now, if the switch is operating on 100 Mbps speed, everybody will operate on 100 Mbps. It's not sharing any bandwidth to anything else. Are we there? So now let's try to look at a wireless router before we close the first lab. So let's go back here. If there's any question, you can put it in the comment section below. Now we want to connect a wireless router, so we go to wireless devices here, and then let's find the Link 6 router, right? So let's go for this router, fine. So click this router. It's a wireless router, right? So let's just bring this one this way. Better still, is okay there. So let's make our wireless. So we come back to end devices and let's go for some laptop. So let's go for like 2 laptops. And I come back right here for tablets. Fine, it's okay like this. So now that first, before we connect, before we configure the wireless router, let's come to the devices. The devices right now have the laptop have a Ethernet card. We have to remove the card, and then we have to put the wireless card. So we have to first turn it off, right? So turn it off, and then there's no password right now. That's why the tablet is connecting there. So if we come here and then put it back here, so we're saying connect now with Wi-Fi. So we powered it on. You see it connected. Why is connecting? Because the router not get password. So if you leave your wireless router open, definitely people will connect to it. That's how it is right now. But we have to configure it to add password, right? So we just remove this wire and say connect to wireless. Now you see here, and laptop appear like a real laptop, right? Yeah. So we have the features are there also, right? So let's go back here now. We have to add password to this router. So let's make this network a green network. So we come here, add the color, and let's see our Wi-Fi network or wireless network is the green network. That's good. Fine. So now we have to configure our router. The same way you configure the router here is the kind of same way you configure it in real life environment. Now let me tell you, when somebody buy a Wi-Fi or wireless router, what you need to do is look at the brand. If it is a TP-Link router, you have to connect the cable, a cable to that router Ethernet port, connect it on another computer, open in the browser and type a default IP for start by typing forward slash. Start by typing 2 forward slash. The IP address 192.168.0.1. That is the default IP for Link 6 for TP-Link router. And for Link 6 router, the default IP is 192.168.1.1. That's the default. If you type in a browser, it will ask you to connect. Then you have to type the username and password for that router. If you check behind the router, there will be a username and password. Usually it's just admin with the login name, and then password is also admin, all in small cap or in small case. If you type it, you're going to sign into the router. And then when they sign in, this is how the router going to open. So let's click on the router, and here, let's come to GUI. So if you type that particular password, the router going to open, then here you're going to see. Router is configured with automatic DHCP. That is why when you connect your phone to the Wi-Fi, your the router can list IP address to your phone depending on the scope or the range that will configure on that particular router. Are you there? So router come with default DHCP. So DHCP is okay over there. So here, this is the router IP address. So you see here, as I was saying, 192.168.0.1 is for the router. That's a class C IP address. That's why you're saying the default subnet mask like this. Whenever the subnet mask change like this, meaning that network have been subnetted. So we'll start subnet class. We'll have a section on subnet. But this is the default IP for class C IP address, right? There's nothing reserved for the DHCP or no DHCP reservation. Now, we can have up to 50 users on this particular wireless router, right? We can increase the number, but it's okay like that. So the range is from here to here. That also okay. So if we scroll back up here, there are a lot of things you can configure on this router. But now you see here, so the speed of this router is 2.4 gigahertz, and the network mode is on auto. That is okay. Now this one is the XSID. Now, what name should this router broadcast before you connect to Wi-Fi? What can happen? You can see the network name, right? So whatever name that you want the router to be to broadcast, then you put it here. That's the SSID. Okay. So broadcast is enable fine. Now channel auto, these are all okay. So normally the router come with two channel, more than one, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. So you can configure one for a particular department. Let's say we got a school and we got a staff and we got a student. So we can configure 2.4 gigahertz for students and 5 gigahertz for staff because staff will go do more, important tasks. Are we there? So let's go back up here and look at the security, right? So security, we can look at address, restriction. We can restrict setting application, setting, website settings, we can hide stuff on blacklist. If we come on this router and then we hide this on the blacklist, meaning nobody will access the website because HTTP work with website. So HTTPS work with secure website. So this one, POP work with email, then IMAP work also with email. So we can click on a particular option and add it to the blind list, meaning somebody will not access that particular site using our router or when they connect to our router. You get that? So there are a lot of things you can configure on this router, password and all. So let me show you the other side. So let's go back here to configure. This side is easy. Let's come here to configure and then let's configure the wireless. So let's configure maybe 5 gigabyte is okay. Now here is the authentication method. So we have to choose a standard. So normally the standard is the most secure one is wireless protector RSX2. So the PA2 PSK is the most advanced authentication standard or security standard. So here let's type a password. So maybe we type pass. Maybe so we type password one in this one. Okay? So equation type EX advanced equation standard. That's it. So this how it is easy like this. So here now let's just close the router. So let's click here and we have to connect to this router. It will disconnect if it take time. Okay, so we have to connect here. Now come to this computer here and then we have to connect this computer to wireless because we put the wireless card. So we click here and now we have to come here and choose the encryption standard and type the password that we add to this router. Now if we type password one, just close it here. This computer is connected.